wake up earlier in the morning and be ready that bit early to take over from us for your...
Talked before, this seems a bit of a... kind of like a...
He doesn't have much choice right now. He has his primary deck, and that's just the way it's going to be. Let's get into it. Game number 1 and the last match of the day. Che0nsu versus Tom60229. Druid versus Mage. And can Tom get over the hurdle that is the Druid test?
I like this a lot from Che0nsu. Both Acorn Bears in hand, beautiful, just early threats, and also with the Blessing of the Ancients you have in your hand, it lets you just play a couple of cheap things and buff them up. Mage doesn't have Arcane Explosion, Arcane Missile, so it's hard to clear these, and they're not going to be pinging every turn because they want to do other stuff with their mana. So having all these early minions with the Blessing of the Ancients, I think is a great keep by Che0nsu. Tom chooses to toss the Rabble Bouncer, thinks he needs some other stuff to get going. The thing with Rabble Bouncer is if you keep it, you're basically expecting, I'm going to fall behind and then I'm going to play this, which isn't necessarily what you want to, like, from the Mage's perspective, you can't come online that quickly, so you do have to wait a few turns before you can do stuff. So generally you are going to be behind a little bit, but he feels that Rabble Bouncer by itself isn't enough. He's going to need some other cards.
Did end up drawing it anyway, but I completely agree. I think as the Mage in this build, you can be proactive. You can do stuff early. You don't just ping pass and wait for something to happen. I was going to say though, Che0nsu's initial hand with the 2 Acorn and the buff was fantastic. That's kind of what you want. And I was going to say, he's like a Dreamweave Guardians, and especially a Soul of the Forest, away from just having almost the perfect shape of hand. Yeah. Maybe not the exact perfect cards, but I ain't complaining if I'm Che0nsu right now. And look at this, like already, this is a problem, and Che0nsu can just do it again.
I mean, it looks kind of funny because we're just saying, oh, it's 3 minions, but I mean, it's 3 minions, but Mage isn't dealing with any of these minions, right? So hitting face again and again, especially with Savage Roar already in hand, this really chip damage can end up to a point where the game is just over on turn 5 or 6, and that's kind of why Token Druid is something that Che0nsu and Rivius decided to bring this week with the expectation of Mage.
And this is what I mean by, like, Mage does have game. They do not just lose, but the problem Mage really has is the second, and many decks actually, the second Soul of the Forest comes down on just even an okay board, it's almost impossible to deal with. It really is. Frost Nova's a pickup there from the Cyclone was massive. Having just +1 Nova in the deck against Token Druid is perfect.
Yeah. You don't like the Pocket Galaxy?
I like Pocket Galaxy as a card. I don't think it does too much right now.
That's fair.
Pocket Galaxy with, I think especially 0 Sandbinders is not quite as impactful as we've seen it in other games this weekend.
Works pretty well with Luna. But yeah, definitely not the greatest in this situation. The Nova does help. The other 2 are a bit too expensive. And obviously not appropriate for the situation.
You can report these spells for inappropriate behavior right now. They're just not correct for this situation at all. Discovering more spells though, not too bad. One thing Token Druid has that a lot of the other decks that are trying to play this style don't, is actually just have damage from hand, right? You know, they run swipes, they have spot removal as well with those rats too.
So a couple of options there. You can take a Blessing of the Ancients just for buffs over several turns, or you can take an extra Savage Roar. Which is kind of interesting. With the amount of small things you have, I don't hate the Blessing of the Ancients. The problem with the Savage Roar is you need the board to, like, stick. So you can't just play 4 Scrolls and say, okay, if he doesn't kill anything, then I can double Savage Roar. So I like taking the extra buff here as opposed to the second Savage Roar.
Again, I would probably lean towards Savage Roar because no one really plays around 2. It's incredibly difficult, but you are completely correct in the fact that you need a board for Savage Roar to do something on it.
With the image pickup, that means Tom can go Rabble Bouncer, images. Che0nsu's not happy about this.
I was going to say a different word, but I'll say upset is what I'm going to say of Brogad's here. But Che0nsu is not happy with this because this is... He could just be dead very soon, and there's not a lot you can do about it. 4 taunts as well as minions that are going to help trade now. I wouldn't mind this trade from Tom whatsoever with his Sorcerer's Apprentice. Very high value card, but with this hand, it doesn't matter. The 1 mana reduction isn't doing a lot.
Just
whereas
-1
minion, great. And then hit him in the face a few times, 98, and that is how you win games of Hearthstone. What the hell?
And this is what I'm talking about. We did have the early minions from Che0nsu, so there was stuff to 3 Blessing of Ancients, the Forest Aid, and Savage Roar. Yeah, it's kind of difficult, right? Like you're kind of pigeonholed into a couple of lines that don't always work out. I mean, to be fair, Tom got some great early game cards off the top that he didn't quite get in his opening hand. Like he ended up finding the Ray of Frost, Apprentice, and Cyclone just in time. The One of Rabblemancer showed up as well, and he was able to just play out the Rabblemancer with the Sea Giant.
Ray of Frost is fantastic. The card is nuts because it's good versus every matchup, right? I don't think it's got a particularly bad matchup that it's useless in, whereas plenty of other cards do.
So I don't think we're at... Yeah, that goes upstairs for sure. And then Tom's thinking about what else to do.
Yeah, this happens and then go.
You can do a lot of trading, but you don't have that much left in hand, so you do need to end the game before it gets out of control. Eventually the Druid will stick enough stuff that the buffs will be able to come through. So Tom's just setting that face, saying, all right, over 3-4 turns, maybe 2, probably not 2 turns, but over 3-4 turns, we're going to try to end up the game. How can I set up the board state in a way that I can actually end the game in 2 to 3 turns? And that probably means using Ray of Frost this turn to clean up a bit of the board. Going face again next turn with the Frost Nova, which pushes another 10. And then the turn after, you get another 10 damage with the board you have remaining. Right. So this doesn't actually set up 3 turn because he traded off the Mana Cyclone, which means that if he freezes the board and goes face for 2 turns, that's 20 damage. A little bit off. With 2 pings it gets there, but Che0nsu could hero power to kind of get out of range.
Nothing. They were lucky. Oh. They're just not good, are they?
Yeah, we probably have to just take the Claw. Nourish is way too slow, and Wild Growth, while it can get you to the Force State faster.
You're also just dead if that's the plan, right?
Yeah,
that's the problem.
A little bit.
Wow, I thought Che0nsu's opening hand was really good, but that turn early on from Tom was just... It's so nutty.
I thought it was good too. Yeah, I agree with that. We might even just see a Pocket Galaxy this turn. Since Frost Nova doesn't quite set up lethal because the hero power can come out, maybe he just says, the ping doesn't do a whole lot right now. Maybe I go with Luna's Pocket Galaxy.
Would you ever trade as well?
Since you're not setting up 2 turn, I think trading off an extra mini is fine.
Because although the Rabble Bouncer dies, right, if you don't trade.
It dies either way.
But also it stops Che0nsu maybe having as much leeway to kill off the other taunts as well, right? If you just remove a minion, you force stuff into the Rabble Bouncer, or if they trade off the 2 taunts instead, then the Rabble Bouncer probably lives, which is more damage anyway. So I think I like the trade here.
I like the trade here. I like the Galaxy as well.
Yeah, just do it. It's fine. You never know what you're drawing next turn.
Not a Sandbinder, that's for sure.
That's true.
It's not in the deck.
Swipe. Not bad. Not bad. This could...
This does help.
This opens possibilities.
Che0nsu's not out of the woods just yet. No pun intended, but that does help quite a bit. He's trying to figure out if he can get at that giant with this swipe. So he can go swipe Claw hero power, but it doesn't quite get there.
Savage does though, right?
Yeah, Savage does. So the thing is, he has cleared the board now, and it does set up for the Force State next turn. So Tom is in a bit of trouble now. Oh, that's rough. The Conjurer's Calling is good, but...
Needs to get him to 10 by turn 10. Easy.
Right.
Easy.
Okay. Well, the Saboteur is gone, but the Force State in combination with the Blessing of the Ancients can just... Oh, okay. That's exactly what Tom needed. Whoa. Okay. I got scared. I thought he was going to play the other giant.
Easy. And a Nova. Well,
that was quite possibly... might literally be the only card in the deck that just straight up opens him the game. There might have been some other good draws that keep him alive, but this is just the game is over next turn.
Sea Giant number 2 does the same.
Yeah, true.
Because he doesn't need the taunts because they're Nova, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just needs something that creates a big, heavy board, and then he just swings because there's no answer. There's no outside of Loti. There's no taunt the options in the deck, right? Oh, Mark of the Lower. Wait, sure. Che0nsu doesn't really want the game to go that late.
Yeah.
Should this have been
already down 0-1, and you can't really be making any more mistakes after that, right? One false turn, and then that's 0-2.
The big one for me specifically is just the mark of the lower. If the removing one mark of the lower is in there for the mage counter, then mark of the lower people weren't playing 2-ofs anyway in a lot of the builds, regardless. So surely there's a cut somewhere. Maybe you just ought to include a second Hog Steed anyway to make the deck a little bit more consistent. But let's go straight into game number 2. Che0nsu does have that Fairy Dragon in hand, and you're about to see the sort of havoc that most of the time it does wreak versus Mage. And Tom did go for full mulligan. Actually threw away the Ray of Frost, which is I don't know. Ray of Frost is a pretty good card.
It worked out for him last game, but he happened to have Apprentice and the Ray of Frost and the Mana Cyclone. By itself, sure, you're able to clear something. And I imagine Tom's also expecting that Fairy Dragon's going to be in Che0nsu's list at this point, because I mean that's why the secondary deck's there. Yeah.
And you've got to be a little bit happy as Che0nsu. You put this tech card in that you want to play early, boom, it's there in your hand early, go.
This is actually pretty crazy coming out from Tom. Like, that was one of the only cases where, like, perfect, I drew a 2-mana 2/2. Because it lets him contest the Fairy Dragon. Importantly enough, this if it does get the trade off, you can develop Luna next turn, and suddenly you have some sort of tempo plan coming on. I do like what Che0nsu is doing here. Instead of creating a Panther or Hero Powering, he's buffing this Fairy Dragon. It can't be pinged off, right? So the 4-1 is just
the health with this current hand does not matter. Obviously, you know, Arcane Missiles, right? It's easier to ping off, so on and so on. But right now on that turn, the 1 health is fine.
Yeah, we see Tom saying, all right, well, I have to throw something at it. I can't ping it off. I can't let it hit me in the head for 4 every turn.
See, now Che0nsu just lined straight up into the trade. And yeah, Tom beat the Fairy Dragon, but look what he had to do.
Yeah, agreed.
It was 2 cards for 2 cards, but bear in mind that Tom's cards, I feel, were 2 more valuable cards. Khadgar and Luna.
To kill a Fairy Dragon.
To kill a Fairy Dragon and a buff, yeah.
And it didn't even like win him the board or anything.
Yeah,
right?
It's sick, yeah, it's really good. I think Che0nsu goes wide here. Right?
I agree.
The 1 mark of the lower left in the deck, still coming in clutch. And this next turn for Tom is huge because of a little card called Soul of the Forest.
For Che0nsu, you mean?
Yeah, as in if Tom needs to remove stuff.
Right.
Because if not, Che0nsu has Soul of the Forest. Sorry, that's my poor wording. But Che0nsu has Soul of the Forest, which almost makes the board immortal in one way or another.
I wouldn't go as far as saying immortal, but it does a lot.
And look at the respect.
Yeah.
Just Mana Cyclone, create a spell, cross fingers.
Well, that's the thing. You can't just wait because you don't have time.
You're gonna die. Yeah. You're really gonna die.
So I like that Tom's recognizing what he has to do to try to. Okay. So this is playable by itself. It's playable with the mirror images. If you play the mirror images, the Sea Giant becomes, I believe, 3 mana. Yeah. Which means you have 1 mana left over to ping. That's probably what we're going to see here, right? Mirror images ping off the 2/1 treant on the left, trade off the Cyclone into the treant inside the treant. Hope that the Sea Giant sticks, and then go for like a Conj Nova play. Tom's taking his time, taking it through.
I think you have to. I think Tom might have been looking what I was looking for there, to see if there's a way you can set up the game where next turn you play the Sea Giant into the Conjurer's Calling.
At the same time.
Just to go, boom, 1 big turn, because this Sea Giant in some worlds can die.
Yeah, that's true.
Which you feel bad about if that happens.
But
I'm not saying he should have waited, of course. But
he's just considering. Right. I feel like he'd be taking too much damage at that point. And that's the thing, like, you see people respecting the fact that the Giant's left up on the board. Even with all this damage, you're saying, all right, I need to push through and kill this Giant. My opponent has 4 cards left in hand. You think you would have preferred Hero Powering to take it?
I think so.
Well,
just to preserve the Death Rattle. To preserve one of the Death Rattles, because obviously...
This is so interesting, because now Tom knows immediately. He's like, all right, I'm not beating Roar, I'm just playing this out. And the fact that Che0nsu had to use Roar there means that, yes, this board is threatening, and it's still going to be doing a lot of damage over the next few turns, but it means that it doesn't just end the game out right here, which means that Tom has to just play out the Asteroid and say, all right, I guess we're fighting for board now. Maybe not successfully, but this is
18 damage this turn without whatever comes out from the Cable Rat.
What
Unless I can't count, but I'm pretty sure that's right. I like Cable Rat, Power of the Wild, ship it all to the face.
I think we might see a few trades.
Boo. I don't. What are you trading for?
Exactly, Conjurer's Calling. I know it looks yucky. I know it looks yucky.
Yucky is a word I would not use, but I agree it's how I feel.
Okay.
It's a correct descriptive word how I feel about you suggesting trades.
I think the only way you lose is literally by leaving Tom that one out. And by clearing everything, what outs are there?
Interesting, we switched roles. In the Mech Hunter, I was saying the only way you lose is if you don't trade. And now you're saying the only way you lose is if you don't trade.
Well, I think they were different. I think they were different cases.
No, 100% exactly the same.
I don't know. A lot of the board has been cleared off here.
I mean, don't get me wrong, this is still a strong board.
It's not strong enough.
It's just, my worry is unless buffs, Savage Roar or something is drawn very, very good next turn, you're actually giving Tom more time to do stuff.
Tom developing the Giant here. He has an option to go Buffoon Magic Trick and then try to go Giant Nova next turn, but I think that's just a little too slow. So I do like that he's just playing this out.
So now he has to trade, right? If you traded the last turn, because the only way you lose is if he Conjures Calls, you have to trade this turn if that's your thought pattern.
Agreed.
If not, you missed a ton of damage.
No, agreed.
Okay, and he does trade in. He's keeping the board wide. The Thalnos is actually not half bad. One, because you can draw swipe, extra damage, but most importantly, it cycles itself. So this Cable Rat created a card that then created a card that then will cycle itself. Like, very high value 2-mana beast.
Can I double back and take back my my argument?
About what?
About trading versus going face?
Nope.
Okay.
You've committed now. Yeah, that's the way it works. Be prepared. I'm going to send you an angry tweet.
Oh, I'm going to get some angry tweets after that, yeah.
Most importantly, though, that Fairy Dragon is just such a problem. The first one was a nightmare. The second one's a nightmare. Not the the rest of the board is also a bit of a problem for Tom right now, but the Fairy Dragon is pushing the most damage by itself.
So Tom can go Buffoon Nova. You can go Buffoon Conj Nova. I like this. Hopefully Che0nsu just doesn't draw anything from Tom's perspective that buffs the board or makes it more durable. And
Silver Forest, for example, would be a bit painful. Oh, Whispering Woods, okay. The good thing... Oh, no, sorry. I was going to say the good thing is the... I thought the Acorn Bearer was down, but he actually used it to trade before, didn't he? So he's not going to generate more cards.
This is okay.
Storming some Cinders.
Probably want to see what's in the second box. Or no, unless Tom's already done the math and figures out that this is better.
Well, I like this.
I do like killing off the Fairy Dragon.
Get rid of the Fairy
before,
Dragon, yeah. It's gone.
A, because it's annoying, but B, because it's easier to clean up the other stuff. If the Cinderstorm happens to ping off the Fairy Dragon but not fully kill it, you can't ping it off.
You trade it anyway,
so I do like this. Conch Calling. Okay. Cinderstorm coming in to clean up a bit. With a lot of minions on the board, it's likely a few of these get... Two-Face is unfortunate, but still... I mean,
it worked out well.
Yeah, it worked out fine. Tom's in a much better spot than he was previously.
You really cannot complain about that turn for Tom. That went about as well as it could go. And this, though, this isn't a bad turn either.
Whispering
Woods hand just goes together.
I mean, the problem is Whispering Woods responds to 1/1s, but it's something that...
But considering you've already got 2 minions on the board, you have another minion to play, then you can buff, means that while not the best Whispering Woods in the world, of course, it does enough.
Yeah.
And consider at this point in the game where you're a bit dry on cards, bear in mind that Thalnos basically got Che0nsu to that, to the buff there, which is the blessing of the Ancients, which is huge.
I think I'd like to see Wardru Lodi come out as a taunt here to prevent any value trades. And just make it harder for Tom to get to the... It'll be 1/6 and after it's
health, right?
It'll be 2/7.
If he buffs, yeah.
But Whispering Woods is only going to get worse, so I do like that coming out.
I think you just play your hand.
Oh, of course.
Whatever.
Categorically.
Because also bear in mind that with the health on everything right now, like the trades aren't that great.
I like this a lot.
Yeah,
and I like going face.
Yeah, smoke them. Okay, well, this game in a roundabout way is at least fairly simple for one player right now.
Yeah.
Che0nsu has limited cards and knows what he has to do. Tom has to Start looking in this book of spells and find something powerful.
This Nova's... okay, Barrier buys you some health, but Nova with a Ray of Frost pickup means you can just kill off 2 minions, and then you're less concerned about the second buff that you know Che0nsu has in hand.
I've got a
Goes
question.
for Icicle instead, yeah?
I mean, guess not now, but I was wondering, do you ever Conjurers call the Loti?
Too much stuff. That's a 3-drop. That's scary.
Yeah. It's just you gain trades most of the time as well, right?
I think Tom going for the Icicle instead, thinking he needs more than just what he has in his hand right now. And he thinks he's still cleaning up enough here that he won't die to the buff. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know. I would have liked the Nova double Ray of Frost here. Your opponent's hand is face up. You know it's the second half of a Blessing the Ancients. If you kill up a couple more minions...
The issue was that the Loti just lives, though, right? Through that play.
Sure, but then you can just punt... You have 2... First of all, the board's frozen. You can banana your minions, and then you just trade off over 2 turns. Like it's not great, but I think it would have been better than this. This gives him more draws, and if Che0nsu doesn't top deck immediately damage and kill you over the long term, I think it is a little bit better, but just by a little bit. I think if you clear this board, that's kind of... You lock Che0nsu out of the game. He's not running the Forest Aid. There's no gas top decks that you can get at that point.
I think the rest of this goes face, though.
Yeah, agreed.
You can push, what, 10, sorry, with Hero Power, of course. You've got 10. You know your opponent's rocking almost nothing in hand. You know one's a banana from start.
I think this might have been Mista from Tom. I think if he cleans up that board, that's kind of it for Che0nsu. And sure, he can't fully clear it, but with the Nova, he's okay. Right, but with the Nova, he would have been able to clear up enough of the board and stop the damage coming in. And then this wouldn't be a problem. Also, it wouldn't be a 2.
He knew there was the Blessing of Ancients in hand, too.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm saying that Che0nsu's hand was face up at that point.
Thanos just loves it, this game.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm here on one side. Okay, I'm gone. Okay, I'm here on the other side now.
So Hyper's the call, going to trade off into something. Tom wants to consider if he wants to buff this Unbound Elemental to get another value trade-off, or if it makes sense to buff the image to stop something else.
I think this is better because it doesn't stop enough.
But everything's lethal, like Wrath, Swipe, not Vargoth.
You liar. Everything is, in fact, not lethal.
Everything that's lethal is lethal.
But still now, though, unless Tom gets a taunt, he is just dead next turn, or heals, of course.
Tom is not running Ziliax.
Right. So he needs to do something or get an Ice Barrier and then have Che0nsu not draw taunt. That is neither. He's got 1 draw. And that's the game otherwise.
Conjurer's Calling. We could get a... There's some 7-drop taunts. Tunnel Blaster, Amani Warbear.
I think just
Rabble
working
Bouncer.
out where he puts the... He just puts Thanos into the Vargoth, right?
Yep. And then that with the Astromancer can trade that off. The call can hit the 3.
He's just making sure that's the correct trade. See the draw.
Okay.
Well, that's a taunt. That'll
Now the thing is, Tom still has to kill Che0nsu, right? Even if you're alive at 1 health, eventually Che0nsu's going to find something like a swipe, right?
Yes.
There are 2 in the deck.
Also, Wrath's draw as well, so whilst not obviously directly damaged...
He'll get you closer,
He has used 2 Cable Rats. Oh no, he's used 1 Cable Rat.
He's used 1.
So Cable Rat could get it... No, he's used 2, right? I'm sure was that last game?
Last game he used a Cable Rat for sure.
Oh no, he discovered Thanos and he discovered a spell with the... He discovered a spell with a Lackey.
The Ether Lackey.
Yeah,
so
oh, never mind. Well, whatever.
Yeah,
while we're trying to work
too.
out how many rats have hit the board, Che0nsu's working out where exactly to aim that swipe, and it was lethal regardless of where the deck right. Was this a little bit too heavy? Did Tom just misread the meta? Did he think that, okay, I'm either going to be facing more mages, which is fine, so take that way, or did there need to be a few more defensive options? Well, it's too late for Tom now. Let's find out how this game goes. As Che0nsu kicking off with a pretty good opening, the old Acorn into a
1, 2,
Dreamweaver.
3 into landscaping.
Yeah. Into Rat. Into Hero Power, whatever card he draws next.
Tom on coin. So, okay, double Ray Frost. With Arcane Intellect, this giant could be coming down quick enough to combat what Che0nsu is developing, but it still won't be for a little bit longer. If Tom happens to pick up an Elemental Evocation as well, then we have the well-known turn 4 on coin Elemental Evocation giant coin Conch Calling. Curious to see if Tom will go for the Arcane Intellect or if he thinks he needs to spend the Ray of Frost here to clean up the board a bit. Okay.
He's going to go Arcane, so Tom's just committing.
Yeah, I like this as well.
He's just decided that this is the play that wins him the game. He could have played Luna to try and stall for time, but time, it's actually quicker not to, basically, because you could do this big turn. And the only problem for Tom is in the window of when he goes into Giant and does this turn, if he gets 2 Giants from Conjurers and not the 7-8 taunts, there is a window where Che0nsu can just kill him.
Yeah.
So he does have to be prepared for that, but I do kind of agree with Tom here that he has to just make this play, otherwise it'll happen like it happened last game where he just never got something on board to actually kill the opponent. It's good to be able to fight back in aggressive waves of attacks, but unless you actually reduce your opponent to 0 life, well, the waves keep coming, especially with the way the Druid's built, just to be able to, even without Forest Sage, just create multiple waves with mainly Soul of the Forest.
Yeah, Che0nsu trying to figure out if he wants to put another minion on the board. If he does, it means that the Sea Giant from Tom is playable on turn 4.
I like spending the mana now and then just getting stuff down, because Wrath is more usable the more mana you spend this turn.
Yep.
And now if you look, he has the additional Rush minion for extra damage. He has Wrath that's playable. Hero Power as well is all doable next turn.
Ooh, that's pretty much exactly what Tom wanted. He might be trying to count and see if there's some sort of Roar lethal that he might want to play around instead, but I think you just go for the Evocation Giant Coin Conch.
So if this is 2 Giants and Roar is drawn, he is dead.
That's Hearthstone.
Agreed. I'm just putting it out there in case someone didn't count.
What about doing Grave Horrors?
He is not dead.
Okay. It's a pretty good draw, though. Can make some trades, kill off 1 Grave Horror for sure.
Soul of the Forest.
2, 4, 6. You can't kill both, unfortunately, if you do go for the Soul of the Forest. But I mean, you pretty much have to. You have no buffs in hand, right? You can use the Wrath to clean something up, but
yeah, I think just 1-drop Soul of the Forest is fine.
Yeah, I mean it'll have to do. It's a great pickup by Tom last turn, but this pickup from Che0nsu also kind of keeps him in the game, because if he didn't have this or any buff card, like his board would kind of get traded off, and then there's not much left.
Bear in mind as well that with only 1 of the minions alive for Tom, he might just have to think about whether he conjures calls again, because if he hits 2 Giants, he could just die.
Yeah, I like trading off the Hawkseed here first. If you Soul the Forest and then trade it off, you don't get both Death Rattles.
Small mechanical plays that might make a big impact on the game. Keeping the 1-2 alive for lifesteal makes sense to me. Oh no, he's going to preemptively trade. Oh, okay. I thought he was going to leave 1 on the board.
I think from his perspective, if that gets Conch calling and it's Giants, it's probably one of the ways you're able to win the game.
I mean, at this point, something to know as well is it's unlikely Tom can clear this board. So does 1 less Death Rattle make much of a difference? Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 damage, which translates to 2 extra, or 1 extra damage the turn after as well, because it transfers the minion from a 1 attack to 2 attack.
So there is the option of going Nova Sea Giant. The thing is that doesn't actually set up lethal, right? Even if you just go face, because you'll end up having 15 damage on the board, plus the 7 from now is 22.
I think it kind of does.
How?
Not direct 2 turn, but 3 turn, because you Giant Nova, and then the turn after you Conjurers with Ray of Frost, Ray of Frost, Ray of Frost to stall out more.
Sure.
Which means it's less likely that your board gets cleaned. All the while you're pushing a lot of damage.
Actually, I do like that.
Yeah.
Tom might opt for doing it the other way around, Ray of Frosting this turn, and then Novaing next turn. But I think I did like the... It's similar.
It's similar, except I feel you just have less options when you do it this way, because your 7/7 taunt dies.
Right.
So you don't quite have as many options. Whereas if you felt like it, you could have even or for example, if you drew Khadgar's next turn, you could Conjurer the taunt and get more taunts. Whereas you cannot do that because the taunt always dies now.
With the second Wrath pickup, Che0nsu can clear this board
and not lose any minions. Sorry.
No.
If he wants to just clear the taunt and not lose any minions, he can actually push damaged face.
Yeah.
Because then remember, the A8 doesn't really get taunts that often.
Yeah.
It's very, very rare, which means you are not afraid of Conjurer's Calling anymore. Or not as afraid.
Right. So Che0nsu has to decide if he wants to fully trade off the board. It costs 6 mana. He has to go Wrath, Hero Power, and the Grave Horror. and he would have to trade off everything into the Sea Giant.
I think you go face.
Just go face.
Yeah, I'm being serious as well. Well, the only problem is,
well, Tom is main decking 2 Novas.
maybe he could trade a minion instead of his face here to preserve just a little bit of life, because now this is 2 turn.
Agreed.
So I think he could have actually traded 1 minion, but I don't like trading to Sea Giant as my summary.
This is going to spell... Tom's nodding his head. He's like, yep.
Yeah. I'll be honest, when I initially thought trade with face, I actually thought Che0nsu was on more health.
Oh, okay.
And then realized he wasn't very quickly and was like, ooh, okay.
I think Che0nsu should have traded off a Treant there.
Yeah, me too.
Just to have a bit more life to work with. It likely won't have mattered because the Frost Nova Contra Calling coming out from Tom means that even if Che0nsu had a bit more health to work with here, he would still just be dead.
I do agree, though, that playing aggressive was the way to go from Che0nsu. He needs to end the game. He didn't have Savage Roar, he didn't have buffs. He needs to push damage that he can and hope there's no Nova. But Tom did.